I'm Matt.
And I'm Nate.
And this is Not Quite Religious, a podcast where a Christian pastor and former evangelical turned atheist have conversations about faith, religion, philosophy, and life while drinking coffee.
Welcome to episode 22, where we're hopefully going to recreate the magic of the lost episode, number 18, that left 54 minutes of radio silence. I really hope you're able to quickly hit fast forward or get to a different show instead of just hoping the next second something would start. But
I love that you say recreate the magic because that's an experience that only the two of us had.
I know.
But I remember like immediately after we hit stop on that episode, we both looked at each other and like with a knowing look, like that was the best episode we ever did. That was so natural. It was funny. It was amicable. We thought people would listen to it. And my friend Mike, because we post our episodes on Fridays, and Mike's one of our avid listeners. So thanks, Mike. He Facebook messaged me on Friday afternoon, and because the name of the episode was.
We do talk about Dr. Horrible's sing-along
blog. Because episode 17, we said we were going to talk about Dr. Horrible's, and we didn't. And then episode 18, we actually did. And so the title of the silent episode isn't the silent episode. It's we do talk about Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, amongst other things. And Mike was like, are you guys being super meta? Like, saying that you talk about something when you actually don't talk at all? No, we weren't being meta. Technical difficulties. So this episode is us trying to recreate the magic that none of you ever heard.
Yeah, I still have no idea what happened between the upload and it was there. I listened to it. It was good. I hit go and...
Yeah. I mean, we talked with John a couple episodes about art, and we talked about abstract art and what is art, and we weren't trying to be
avant-garde.
We weren't trying to be avant-garde podcasters by saying nothing for 50 minutes.
Oh.
I did hear an album at a coffee shop a couple years ago, and regret that I didn't mention this when John was with us because I think he would have been amused. But I think it was a 50-minute record or album of just glass shattering.
Sounds awful.
like
it's not even so. Me and Shirley, before we had kids, like we would. I mean, occasionally now, since before the pandemic, we would occasionally go to bars, and one of the ones that we really liked in Northampton was called the Green Room. And it's right up your alley. Like, the bartender would look just like you. Like, super hipster, they have, like, the mustache, and they wear, like, the leather apron, and they call themselves mixologists instead of bartenders. And, like, it's really neat. Like, they're super cool, though, and you can be like, yeah, I don't like any of the drinks that you propose, but I really like, licorice flavor or this or that, and they'll, like, come up with a drink for you. And they do, like, slow gin fizzes the old-fashioned way. Like, they whip the egg whites in front of your face. Like, so they have the TVs like most bars do. And, in Amherst, a lot of the bars will have, like, sports games on or, like, the stupid, like, Channel 1000 that's just showing, like, bloopers and, like, people are amazing and things like that. This has, like, it's nonstop footage of looking out a train in the Scandinavia. So you're just, like, going through the country, like, going through Holland and Denmark and Finland on a train.
Like a documentary or something?
It's just a movie of, like, looking out a train. And there's, like, hundreds of hours of this. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's what's on.
All the time?
All the time.
Every time you've ever been there, it's just...
Way more pleasant than Shattering Glass.
Yeah, I think so. Is it still there?
The Green Room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm going to have to make a trip.
Yeah.
This very day.
There you go.
Because it does sound like it's right at my alley.
Yeah.
Although, I didn't like 50 minutes of glass shattering while I'm drinking coffee trying to write a sermon in a coffee shop.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
I'd rather listen to Bob Dylan or something. That was no fun.
Is it true that every Bob Dylan song is done better by someone that isn't Bob Dylan, except for the Hurricane?
I'm
I'm pretty sure.
That could be a whole episode too. I don't. Maybe that's true. I mean, All Along the Watchtower is definitely an example.
Yeah.
And Johnny Cash did North Country, but they did a duet. What I don't remember other.
The Animals did. Even the Beatles covered some Dylan stuff.
Yeah.
I think Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Knocking on Heaven's Door is actually superior to Dylan's.
Oh, really? You think so?
I think so.
I don't like either version. I just don't like that song. But no, I think it's probably true now that I think about it.
Yeah. Except for the Hurricane.
And like
the
Dylan,
Hurricane has to be Dylan.
On the drive back home last week, John and I got into music, and he just was like, and I'm not a rank your favorite artist, rank your favorite movie guy, but he was like, top 5 musical artists, go. And I couldn't think of number 5, but I had 4 that I could think of right away. And Dylan was definitely up there.
Yeah.
He's an amazing lyricist.
Yeah.
Like, that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Right.
It's the power of his poetry, because people can arrange his songs differently, and almost every time they're better.
Yeah.
So, which to me just proves what a great lyricist he is. But Bob Dylan is not Dr. Horrible.
It's true. Well, first, you brought your favorite coffee.
Yeah, the Mocha Joe's Dark Roast Cameroon.
Yeah, it's really good. I would have to have it side by side with the green one.
We'll have to do that.
Because I think this is like a 9.95.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's what I rated the other one, too, though.
Yeah. The other one was Terra Nova. Do you remember what it was?
No, I don't.
What the origin was? I think it was Brazil. I think. Or it might have been Honduras. I don't remember now.
Yeah.
I don't think this is my best brew.
Okay.
So this particular cup is an 8.5, which is like a 6 on the John scale.
Right? I know. It's so harsh.
But the best cup of Cameroon that I've ever made at home over a pour over was definitely approaching 10. And there's another coffee shop I want to mention, or another roaster I want to mention that I want to get here sometime. I just thought of it yesterday, is which for my money is the best roasting company in the world. Although they might have a different roaster than they did when I was drinking their coffee like 12 years ago, but a coffee shop in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Electric City Roasting.
All right.
And I'm going to order their coffee and bring it, because
good.
It was 10 years ago as good as it gets. But they had an amazing roaster back then.
Yeah, I mean, the master roaster makes a huge difference, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally. So this, I didn't brew this as good as I brewed the Terra Nova. So it's fine.
All right.
But I
think it's good.
It's still my favorite.
Yeah.
And that's our coffee review.
I did not buy coffee this morning so that I could have this.
And I'm glad you trusted me to remember it, because I forgot it last time.
I have backup if
okay. Was it the you were going to do Dunkin's, but you were going to tell me it was like Caribou or something?
No, that's like it's going to be like 3-4 years down the road at this point. Okay, you have to forget about it,
because that bit was part of the Dr. Horrible's.
Right.
That was part of the silent episode.
Yeah.
So they don't know about that whole.
Well, they do, because we talked about it with John.
Yeah.
We had to like re-explain that again.
Right.
So,
but just to re-explain, the idea is me being, since I'm such a coffee snob, Nate was going to like make the coffee without letting me see the package, let me judge it, and tell me it was like Caribou or like
some fancy local brewer.
Yeah, make up a company I never heard of, and it was going to be Dunkin', and then listen to me rate it like a 9 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday when I was food shopping, I did walk by Folgers, and I was like, "That's too obvious."
Well, you know what we could do one week is like compare horrible coffees.
Yeah,
we could do like Dunkin', Maxwell House, and Foster's or Folgers, and just be like, which one of these is the worst?
Yeah, probably Maxwell House.
I don't know. Folgers is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's true. Both of them. Both of them are pretty bad.
Yeah.
And we could do, what's the Nespresso, like, instant?
Oh, man.
It looks like rabbit pellets. And you
remember when Starbucks tried to do an instant coffee?
Yeah, the Via.
It was awful.
Well, and like their whole thing was like, this isn't instant coffee. It's just really, really fine ground coffee that dissolves. So it was just like gritty because
I don't think anybody knew how to make it the way they intended at home.
Yeah.
It was just bad.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Yeah, you finally watched it a month and a half ago when we talked about it.
And when you suggested it to me, I just thought, well, this will be interesting. Like this passion project, this fun project of friends, and they just put this thing out on YouTube. And it's guys that I generally like. And we talked a little bit about liking Joss Whedon's work, but not the guy.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was going to be like this fun little super hilarious thing. I had no idea it was going to be poignant. I mean, it was funny.
Yes.
But I had no idea it was going to be poignant and tragic.
Yeah.
And beautiful.
Yeah,
and
it was Shakespearean.
Yeah. It was. And I even think it might be the best thing that Joss Whedon has ever done, in my opinion.
It's really good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So I was just blown away by how good it was. I wasn't expecting that. It was a nice surprise. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, and considering it came out during the writer's strike in the 2000s, like, nothing good was coming out because there was no TV. And then this thing drops.
Right.
On the internet. Is like this whole, like, oh, the internet isn't the TV. So you could, like, put stuff on there and get around the Writers Guild.
Right.
Like, so there is, like, artistry in that. Just to, like, think outside the box there for a minute.
Right. There's this...
And then, yeah, like, you have Neil Patrick Harris playing the evil villain, super villain, who's actually kind of good, who's also, in the end, chooses to not, like...
And I was watching it realizing that the animated movie Megamind totally stole the idea from Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Yeah.
But I loved Megamind back in the day. Still do. But the whole idea of, like, having a villain be the protagonist.
Yeah.
I mean, this was before Don Draper, before Walter White, granted after Tony Soprano, but they're kind of Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog is kind of on the cutting edge of what if the bad guy was the good guy kind of thing, which is almost become a cliche.
Yeah. I mean, Joss sort of did that with Angel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was like vampire. It was also... Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get into Angel or Buffy as much as I did Firefly.
Yeah.
But
Shirley's going through Buffy now because she started when we started dating, right? Because I just made so many Buffy references, and then there's just so much stuff to do. But now it's become like her show that she watches when laundry's on, like when she's like doing laundry and like she needs something, but it has to be kind of mindless and
yeah. When was the last time you watched Buffy?
Me, like a week ago.
Does it hold?
But like with Shirley.
Yeah. Does it hold up, or is it a bit cheesy?
It both does and doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, the first season especially is super cheesy, but it always was a little more cheesy than the other seasons. I think Vampire Diaries holds up a lot better. Like, we've watched Vampire Diaries in our house, like, 4 times through.
Uh-huh.
And Originals, and, like, haven't finished the final season of Legacies, but... So, like, you like your sci-fi with space, I think, and I like mine with vampires.
I don't actually like sci-fi.
Okay.
I just had a friend that was into it and was like, you gotta watch this show Firefly. This was back in 2006, and it was a roommate actually, and we went in together to buy I think it came in 4 DVDs, the entire series.
Yeah.
And I think it cost us each like $5. And it was, obviously, I loved it. I was bummed to find out that Joss is kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Firefly is the one space thing that I enjoy. Like, people always assume, like, oh, you must like Star Wars. No. Star Trek? No. What's that other one where the aliens, or like the robots become sentient and they, like, Battlestar Galactica? Is that it?
I don't actually know what the premise of Battlestar Galactica is.
Yeah. I tried to like that, and
I know... everything I know about Battlestar Galactica comes from Dwight Schrute.
We had Battlestar Galactica watch parties at our house because people were like, "You just gotta get past the 3rd episode," and like other people in my house ended up absolutely loving it. And so we had like basically a party like every Sunday night or something. People would come over and watch Battlestar Galactica, and I would just want to shoot myself. And it's just like, space is just not my... I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if those people had vampire fangs instead of a spacesuit on, I'd be totally into it. I don't know. And it's ironic since like I majored in physics and like did some astronomy research in my undergrad, but it just doesn't...
I think what appealed to me about Firefly mostly was less about the style, although I dug the whole like... We're trying to mix it Western with sci-fi. Yeah. And I don't think they're the first people to ever do that or have that concept. But I really dug it stylistically. But I think the main thing for me was that the idea of these people trying to be free in a society that was, and it, you know, it's interesting that you have a society in, you know, you have multiple planets, you know, like, so you got these guys trying to go to the outer rim of whatever their solar system is that they move to, and they're just getting jobs to be free.
Yeah.
And I feel like the compelling thing about Malcolm Reynolds is if you ask him, why do you know, what's the point of all this? And I think he says it himself. It's just to keep moving. It's just so existentialist, and especially like in 2004, I was just all about that. You know, I think that Cracked. I think it's Cracked.com. I think they had an episode like 5 or 6 years ago about the politics of Firefly. That was interesting. Like, what appeared to be sort of anarchist in 2005 now just seems like libertarian and almost conservative. Mm-hmm. In like 2018, and I just thought that's an interesting take. But yeah, I was into it. I don't think sci-fi played much into what made me into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as bad of a person as Joss is, he does have a knack for world building.
Yeah.
Right? And that's even with Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, it's like 1 hour, but you're fully immersed. Like, you understand the rules of that world. Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and they mirror our world so much.
Yeah.
Which I think sometimes I presume about sci-fi. I really can't make very good judgments about sci-fi because it's just not something that appealed to me. But one of the things about Star Wars is it didn't seem like the world was as complete and thought through and fleshed out in Lucas's mind as, say,
no, we're gonna get
something like Firefly.
We're gonna get lots of angry people.
Yeah, I'm not a Star Wars.
Yeah, I know. Xander was watching The Mandalorian, and Shirley hates Star Wars, so she just keeps going pew 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 pew. She just doesn't. I don't get it either. Like,
I came to it too late. I think that's my theory.
Yeah,
I think if you watch Star Wars as a kid, you probably love it.
I watched them as a kid. I watched the 3 movies. Like, you know, episode 4, 5, 6. I could still watch those. Like, they're good. And then like the new ones came out, and I was supposed to be excited and feigned excitement because I was a physics nerd at the time with all these other physics nerds, and we stood in line like overnight. Got paid by people to stand in line overnight for when episode 1 came out to get tickets, and I don't know. I was like, yeah. And I know a lot of people felt that way about. I mean, the third episode 3, where like Darth Vader gets his legs cut off and everything. Spoiler alert. I'm like, that's a decent one too. I'm like, oh, okay. But like episode 1 and 2, besides Natalie Portman being like unbelievably attractive. There's not much in there for me.
Yeah, when did the Return of the Jedi come out? Like the last of the original trilogy.
Early 80s, right? It was like, was it 79, 81, 83 or something like that?
I was born in 82. So I definitely missed the first two.
Yeah. See, I remember having some original Star Wars toys and that my mom gave away. And, at this point, I'm like, damn it.
And
like, I had Ewok Village. And it had, like, rocks
wow.
you could drop on people. Yeah.
The whole
I was an only
yards.
child. So, like, usually for Christmas, I got, like, one really big present and then, like, a few spattering of, like, things to... But, yeah, I had the Ewok Village. I had a net that would drop on people and...
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I can see the commercials, I think. I think I can reimagine what those commercials... Yeah, I can hear the voice. It's like I had one guy that did commercials.
Yeah.
And movies from 1983 to 1998.
Right. He was also on Movie Phone.
Right. But, no, so I didn't have, like, a dad who was into Star Wars. Or mom, or, like, older cousin, or any of that. But when the prequels came out, I think when the prequel came out in 99, or the episode 1, I was like, well, I want to watch this, and I want to get caught up. And so the first time I watched Star Wars was in high school. And I just think I feel like this is my pet theory. The people who are really into Star Wars watched it as a kid.
I mean, some of them are older than us, though. So.
Or watched it themselves in the theater.
Okay.
And they were there in 1978 or whatever.
Right.
And it was...
Because it was revolutionary for filmmaking at that.
Right. Yeah. Like, in terms of, like, effects and that movie experience. And so I get that, like, all that nostalgia and the bonds that you have with your friends or maybe even, like, your family. But I just didn't have any of that. So, to me, that means that I get to see it objectively, though. Right? So, looking at it from an objective point of view, it's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of cheesy and not well written. And mostly poorly acted.
Yeah.
Most of the time, with the exception of Harrison Ford and James Earl Jones voicing Darth Vader. But anyway, I sound super judgmental today. Maybe I sound like this all the time. I'm like snobbing out on coffee and snobbing out on Star Wars.
We were a lot happier the first time we recorded the Doctor. Oh, and then we talked about food too.
Yeah, I don't remember how we...
We spent a good 20 minutes talking about Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog itself, but I think it's because we were both experiencing the joy of you sharing your experience for the first time with me. And that moment's gone. The magic is...
Yeah. I should have rewatched it. But even then...
Anyway, you guys should watch Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. It is really good. If you are familiar with Joss's work, I think you'll appreciate the actors that are in it even more. If you're not familiar with Joss's work, Matt thinks it's his best thing, so you might as well start off with...
Yeah. And I don't even like musicals. And I liked that part of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like, let's get through this.
Right, to the story.
I was like into the songs. I don't know why. I guess I could follow the narrative in them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're comical as well. And like you said, poignant. I don't know. I enjoy musicals somewhat. Kira has she's super into musicals to the point where that's her Pandora station. And I'm like, I don't want her to listen to a random song from a random musical with no backstory. If I'm going to listen to a musical, I want to listen to the whole musical. It's like watching a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't just turn on the middle 7 minutes of a movie that you haven't been watching. And so her musical Pandora, I'm just like, oh my gosh, shoot me now.
I don't know. I feel like if Disney movies from the 90s when I was a kid, if you just did a random song.
But those aren't musicals.
They're not?
I mean, they have music, but there's when I think musical, I'm like Alexander Hamilton or Wicked or Rent.
Those are almost operas.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that's true, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying,
So if it's one of those, right? Like, do you want just a random song to pop up? I don't know. Like,
there's a couple songs from Hamilton, I think, that if they just popped up, having watched it,
would be stuck in your head.
It's different because I watched it.
Yeah.
If I didn't watch it, then I would feel like you did. I'd be like, I don't know what this is about.
Yeah.
But having watched it, what's that really famous one from...
Shot?
Yeah. I could listen to that on its own, by itself. Or like, I Can't Wait to Be King, or what I love is the Gaston song from Beauty and the Beast, right? Or Under the Sea, right? Because I know all those stories. I know all those.
Yeah, I don't know. Just so like for me with the musicals, they're like all over the place. At least on like a random state. So like Disney songs don't feel like musicals. Like musicals, like there's like a type of song that belongs in musicals, right?
Huh.
Like at the end of the end of the first song in Hamilton, right? Where like the ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him, right? And it goes like you know at the end it's gonna be like bump, and like all the instruments are gonna hit this, like there's just like a dish, 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 and, right? So it's like left hand, right hand, everyone. Like there's like a cadence to musicals that's just different, and there's like a way that they're sung that I guess is more like operatic.
Right. Right.
So for me, like if I'm not listening to the whole musical, like I really, and I also need to be in the mood sometimes for a whole musical, which is where like, you know, Dr. Horrible sing along blog. It's like a musical, but it's more like a musical episode of a TV show. Mm-hmm. Like Buffy has a musical episode that's absolutely phenomenal. Scrubs has a musical episode that is terrible. There was a time where like every television show was doing a musical episode for like it was like a dream sequence. Usually with Buffy it was easier because it was a spell.
Does Community have a musical episode?
I bet they do.
It seems like the kind of show that would.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
And I bet it's amazing.
If they do have one, it's amazing. I want to say they do.
They have to.
Yeah.
If anybody's out there, any of our listeners are fans of Community and know that
they have to have one.
That they have a musical episode, please let us know about.
They have the Christmas episode in Claymation. I guess that's not a musical.
But it's creative. It's like that's what I'm saying. It's like the kind of random meta thing that Community's always doing.
Huh.
But I don't know. Defining musicals is not where I thought this episode was going to go. But when the first thing I think of when I think of what a musical is Singing in the Rain.
Okay.
Or like West Side Story.
Yeah, I think those are both musicals, right?
I think so. But like there's a lot of narrative in between and like a lot of dialogue to set up those songs. And whereas like Hamilton's more of is there any dialogue in Hamilton? It's been like a couple years since it's all
no, but I mean there's none in like Jesus Christ Superstar or Miss Saigon or Cats, which is awful. Don't ever see it.
So yeah, I guess the genre of musical is a bit flexible. I think Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog for me fit into that because the music served the narrative. Now that I'm saying that means that like Disney movies aren't necessarily musicals because a lot of times they're just like, we need a song here. And it doesn't move the plot all that long. It doesn't tell you something you didn't already know. Like, we didn't need a whole song to explain that
Moana wanted to go to the ocean.
Right. Or that Simba wanted to be king, which is another way of saying he couldn't wait till his dad was dead.
Yeah.
You know.
Although High School Musical is a musical commenting on musicals, and it has dialogue.
Have you seen that?
I've seen all of them. I have kids, man.
I have kids too.
Yeah. Do you have Disney Plus?
Yeah.
No. So you should watch Zombies then. That should be your introduction into Disney pop high school musicals.
Zombies?
Yeah.
What year is that from?
I don't know. The third episode in the trilogy just came out, so relatively recent, I guess. But it's about these people who this company accidentally turns some of them into zombies. And they figure out how to get them to be not like brain-eating maniacs, like can sort of function in society, but they're like segregated off like second-class citizens, and then they're finally allowed to integrate into the high school. And of course, like, you know, the protagonist zombie and the protagonist human fall in love, and they're gonna shatter the mold and show that zombies and humans can get along. And then the next episode introduces werewolves, and you'd think the third installment would introduce vampires. It doesn't. It introduces aliens instead. And I really wish it was... And then there's like a mini shorts cartoon to fill in some of the blanks in between the movies, because Disney's like doing all that sort of... There's vampires in that, but it's a really good... Like, it's the first two... I haven't seen the third all the way through, but the first two are actually pretty cute and decent. And you get a little teary.
Yeah. Wow, imagine being teary-eyed over zombies. That could be a thing. Okay. So I got the hipster place in Northampton.
You could watch...
I gotta watch...
You could watch it while you're at the hipster place.
Right. Drinking whatever, foam... What do they have there? Bubble... I don't remember what you said they had.
Slow gin fizz.
Whatever that is. and then maybe I can start like a Star Wars bashing discussion with...
It could be our second blog. We could start another podcast where we just bash Star Wars.
Yes.
We'll have the podcast where it's just silent.
Right.
The one where we just bash Star Wars.
The one that...
There's a lot to bash in Star Wars too. Like,
yeah.
I don't mean just that, but I mean, like, you know, especially because we're like casual viewers. Like, there's like novels and comic books and TV shows, and like it is as big, if not like, as the MCU or the DCU.
Right.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I don't identify with that. It's just oversaturation. You have to already be in for that to appeal.
Yeah. When I was a church planter, one of the guys in our congregation was like legit upset about a book because it like contradicted canon in another book, and they were like on blogs like arguing with other people, and at this point I was still very Mark Driscoll, like, men should get jobs and stop playing video games and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And like I just was like, dude, you're wasting your life. Like, and now I'm like, I guess he enjoyed it. Like, that's totally fine to have a hobby, but I thoroughly enjoy the MCU and Buffy, and I would just never argue on a forum about canon, I don't think.
No, but then where my entry point into trying to be sympathetic is that sports fandom is really a nerddom.
Yeah.
That we make this arbitrary divide, I think, because of the way we grew up in high school, there were the nerds and the jocks or whatever.
Right.
But really the way that people do sports with fantasy football.
Well, I was going to say, when fantasy football came out, all my friends jumped on it, and I don't watch sports.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know the rules of this. Like, I would not be able to pick a good team.
Right.
Because, like, outside of, like, the few famous people, like, I don't know what a tight end does.
It sounds like something I don't want to do, or watch.
Like, seriously, I'm like, okay, like the you know, the quarterback throws the ball and the receiver gets it, but can't like tight ends also catch the ball and like other?
Yeah,
and I'm just like, so you know,
yeah.
So like, I would make the worst. It would either be the best accidental fantasy team ever, because I wouldn't, you know, like, when like they joke around like the office pool is won by like on midnight or March Madness by like the person who doesn't even know what basketball is,
like the boss's girlfriend or
whatever. Yeah, and they're just like, I like the color blue.
I picked all the blue teams.
Right. Like I would either, that would be my fantasy football team, and they'd be like, Nate is like crushing us, and I'd be like, yeah, I know the ball play stuff, or they'd just be like, why are you even here?
Well, I think almost anybody could do fantasy football now. Because if you do a draft, it doesn't matter if you do it like on Yahoo or ESPN or whatever, there's that, or NFL.com. They basically rank the players and for you, and you have you have to fill roster spots. So you can't like just pick 12 running backs. You have to pick at least one quarterback, at least 2 running backs in most league. Like you have to fill those positions. So you could just go through the whole thing and draft the best available, because they'll show you who it is, and best the draft of it, and you might have a good enough team. Now, people that play don't want to admit how much luck is actually involved because we're human beings. But I have a friend who starts studying for fantasy football like in June. He listens to all the podcasts, all the blogs, watches the YouTube videos, sits down and reads the magazines. And I'm like, I don't know that it's that necessary. But I don't think he's just doing it because he's obsessed with winning. I think that's part of
that's the fun.
That's part of it.
Right.
Is he actually enjoys doing the research, and I think he's looking for a loophole somewhere, like, to game the system. But I'm still really suspicious that it's not. It's mostly because you don't know, guys. There's so many variables. Guy could get injured.
Right.
We don't see him in training camp. We don't know if they're trying hard. We don't know if they're training hard. We don't know, like, it's a million things that could happen. But yeah, the way that guys bond over, and girls bond over sports and football, it's not really different than the kind of people that go to Comic-Con, and it's just a social thing that people do.
Right.
So I've always found the divide kind of funny, but that's where my nerddom goes, is into sports.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I think some of those, like, just thinking about Comic-Con, right? Like, people dress up as their favorite people, and like this past year for Halloween, we spent an exorbitant amount, like more than I've ever spent on costumes. Like, I bought a Deadpool costume that's like real. Like, I had to give them measurements of my calves and my, like, every part of your body you could think of, because it was handmade. And they were like, once we start making this, like, you cannot return it because it's made for you in your body. It was like $250 costume. And Shirley ended up getting a Scarlet Witch one, and we all went as X-Men, or we all went as MCU characters. So, and technically we tried to keep it so that everyone was an X-Men. Deadpool isn't quite an X-Men, but he's a mutant, and so we, like, pulled it off, and Xander went as Gambit, and Kiara went as Rogue, and Karis went as Kitty Hawk, and Zach went as, oh gosh, oh man, he throws sticks out of his arms. Crap.
Oh.
If you didn't watch the cartoon, then you're in,
I don't know,
or read the comics. He's not in he might be in one of the movies quickly as like a side character. And Ollie went as Cyclops, and Bash went as Wolverine. It was like, if we had done that at Comic-Con, I think there'd be guys who go to football games who'd make fun of us, yet they like paint their bellies and their faces with makeup and
wear,
and I'm like, it's the same thing.
And they wear actual people's likenesses, right? Like, they wear their jerseys.
Yeah.
And, like...
Well, I'm thinking about, like, the guys, in, in, like, 0-degree weather with, like, giant beer bellies, painted,
But I think it's way more expected in Comic-Con for people to come dressed up than it is, like, at a sporting event.
Yeah, but no one's going to judge you at a sporting event for dressing up like that. I mean, they might judge you for dressing up like you were at a Comic-Con.
People that aren't sports fans will judge you. And people that are sports fans like myself will too. It's like, come on. It's Buffalo, New York, and it's 18 degrees, and I'm not really impressed that you have a beer gut and aren't ashamed of it. Like, I don't believe that you're not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was invited to go to a Comic-Con by a friend.
You should go.
A couple months ago in Boston. I think it's passed.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. It didn't work out. But he was like, you need to do something like really obscure. He wanted to insist that I dress up as something obscure. And so my plan was to go to Comic-Con in Boston as Boss Grissom from the 1989 version of Batman. Who I think that's the only iteration of that particular character that exists anywhere. And I don't think I could have pulled that off.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm just not good at costuming.
Yeah.
Because do you remember who Boss Grissom is? I forget the actor's name. He was in City Slickers. Just like an old guy who dressed in like an old dressed like a mobster. Yeah. So basically, I would just have to
get a zoot suit?
Get a zoot suit and spray paint my hair gray and shave, because I think he was clean shaven.
Yeah.
And talk in a certain way.
Could have done it.
But I don't know. I might have got confused for Clint Eastwood or what's the mobster guy in the Marvel universe? What's that guy's name? Like the big fat guy.
Daredevil's nemesis?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But we can't remember anybody's name this morning.
I know.
It's too early.
It's school started this week. It's been a little bit of an adjustment.
But he loved it. I also thought about going as Max Schreck, who was the bad guy in Batman Returns. Christopher Walken was the actor.
That would be hard to pull off.
And
do you do a good Christopher Walken? Because otherwise, but then I guess people just think you're going as Christopher Walken.
Yeah, right. They'd be like,
which is like also like a thing you could do at Comic-Con.
Could you?
I think so.
It's like, did you come to Comic? Are you Bruce Dickinson? Yes.
My kids are watching The Simpsons. They're starting, and like some Simpsons episodes are so gold. We know that anyone that stars Lisa is the worst, but we just watched we've been going through the Tree Houses of Horror, and all I thought of is at the end of one of them, like Xena's in it, the warrior princess, and Lisa Lawless keeps telling them like, told you I'm not Xena, I'm Lucy Lawless. And at the very end, she's flying with them on her back.
Yeah.
And they're like, we didn't know Xena could fly. And she goes, I told you, I'm Lucy Lawless.
Xena can't fly.
It's just amazing.
But I can.
It's like such a great one. It's like one of the best Simpsons one-liners, I think. I told you, I'm Lucy Lawless. Like, first off, implying that the actress can fly is just, but it's just, I thought of that with the Christopher Walken. I told you, I'm Christopher Walken.
Yeah. Or are you referring to the Bruce Dickinson, the SNL skit?
No.
Oh, where does he say, I told you I'm Christopher Walken? Oh, yeah.
I was just translating that from I told you I'm not Xena, I'm Lucy Lawless.
I was just thinking of the SNL skit where he walks out, he goes, hey guys, my name is Bruce Dickinson. Yes, the Bruce Dickinson. Everybody's seen that skit. If you're listening and you haven't seen the cowbell skit on SNL, get your life together.
Yeah.
Get on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like 8 minutes long.
Oh, it's like 3.
Maybe like 5.
I think all SNL skits are like an hour, 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's right there on YouTube. Classic SNL.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that we
captured something.
We didn't. I don't think we captured the magic, but I feel like we were.
It's different. I think we paid homage to it.
Yeah, we didn't get into the food thing.
No,
which was
food is mysticism. Yeah.
So we'll just have to do another episode about that.
Yeah, I find food should be a little transcendent.
Yeah,
I mean that was the gist of it.
Yeah, I want. That just makes me curious how we got from on the silent episode from Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog to Transcendence.
I think because the episode even before that, I had like mentioned it very shortly at the end, and you were like, "We need to do something on that." So I think it was just like a hard transition where we were like 20 minutes in. I was like, "All right, enough Dr. Horrible. Let's talk about transcendence and food."
Yeah, I think
I don't know, but also like whenever we do these sorts of episodes, and this is very reminiscent of when John was here. Like we're talking about transcendent things like music and musicals, and even like why some people are really compelled by the Star Wars universe and other people aren't, and why some people are really compelled to fantasy football. Like there's something there in the human imagination and psyche, and I guess I come down to like food. Like I really like. I mean, like I've said, I really enjoy some things like the Vampire Diaries universe or the MCU, But, like, if I had to geek out on something, it would be food. And that is stuff that I'll get in arguments online with people. Be like, no, that's not a Brunoise. Like,
yeah.
Right? And I think for all of it, it comes down to, like, a shared collective experience that gives you a place of identity and belonging.
Right.
Which is, like, the whole point of Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, isn't it?
Right.
Like, in some level, like, he wants to find his people and be with his people.
Uh-huh.
And he's willing to do anything. And unfortunately, he makes the wrong choice. Like, the people... But, you know, I guess I don't have to not spoil it because it's been out for 20 years now.
Uh-huh.
But, like, he's willing to do anything to get in with the people he thinks are his people, including killing, like, the love of his life.
Yeah. And the thing is like, any of these things, you can break down into their parts and realize that they're not... you can break down to the point that they're nothing. You know, like, you could say, this is just Dr. Horrible sing-along blog is just people singing and talking. Star Wars is just people acting
pew pew,
like it's just people pew-pewing all over the place. Food is
people pew-pewing all over the place.
That's the name of the episode, right? Pew pew. But you know, food. Food's just what we need to survive. It's just it's just functional, and yet somehow it isn't at all.
Yeah,
especially in modern society, especially in a society where we have more disposable income. But what is that? You know, what is that? To get philosophical, like, what is that? Where does that come from? That capacity that we have as human beings to take something to make it more than functional.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's just humans that do that.
Yeah,
you know, I think it's been shown that orcas and dolphins, chimpanzees, bonobos, even some higher level macaques, parrots, like crows, like they do it too. And I think science is just catching up, and I think a lot of some apologetics arguments that focus on, like, you know, God making humans in his image, in the image of God created them, like man and woman, he created them. Like, they focus on, like, there used to be this belief, even for atheists and, like, all worldviews, for the most part, that, like, humans were more special than other animals. Like, we had language, and we did art, and we had these collective experiences, and we had this idea of the transcendent. And I think as behavioral psychology and science has been catching up, actually studying animals without our preconceived biases, we're finding more and more animals have these ideas. And, like, just the fact that they mourn, that they'll do art, that they enjoy, you know, like, things that aren't functional, you know. So, which I just got off onto, like, a super serious topic after, but I just want to say, I don't think it's just humans.
Mm-hmm. I hear that, and I just don't, I feel like we're running up against the clock.
Yeah.
In terms of me rebutting that, but I recall there's that gorilla. I think her name was Coco.
Yeah.
They gave her a kitten.
Yeah.
And she could have crushed it, like, easily. Right. Even on accident.
Yeah.
She could have crushed it. But she cared for it as if it was a baby, and then when they had to come and tell her, and they told her, like,
right,
this,
in sign language.
In sign language, they told her that she died, and you think it's basic, but when you think of it, like, from the point of a gorilla, like, it's quite amazing. You're like, yeah, of course the gorilla was sad. It's like, wait a minute. Not of course. Like,
right.
These people came to the gorilla, and it had to understand what their signs meant. And then it had to do this abstract thing.
Yeah.
And realize that the animal was dead.
Right.
It had to know what death was. It had to have a concept of it. Yeah. That the kitten wasn't coming back. It had to care about the kitten in order to feel sad about it.
Not its child, because you could make a evolutionarily
Right.
You're like, well, all animals have an instinct to be sad if their kid dies.
Right.
Right. But to be sad that another species, like,
right,
like it's a whole nother level of not.
It's remarkable.
Like,
it's really something amazing, and so I don't know how much that calls into question Christianity, but I don't mind. I don't mind leaving an episode wide open.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, pew pew.